Welcome back, everybody. This is QuestionMarc,
And I'm Ame.
and we are back with more of the Final Fantasy Commander tier list. And today we're looking at.
Red and green, let's go Gruel.
Heck yeah. And let's see, we are going to be adding them into the tier list that we've already got. So if you haven't seen those videos already, you'll want to check on where the other characters go. But for the red characters today, we're starting off with Barrett Wallace.
Yay, Barrett! I love this guy.
Oh yeah, he's a cool dude.
I love how much he loves his adopted daughter. It is the cutest thing in the world. He's one of the most wholesome dads, I swear.
Yeah, and like, okay, on the one hand, from what I've seen of Final Fantasy VII, he's kind of like one of those blaxploitation characters in a way, in that he does a lot of like catchphrases and like weird, turns of phrase that are maybe a bit stereotypical, but I don't know, it kind of a mixed bag that I think for most people kind of comes full circle to being cool and good and interesting again.
Well, he is definitely a black stereotype, but he's also a stone cold badass, and like I said, a wholesome father figure, and he's the leader of Avalanche.
Yeah.
He's the guy who said, you know what, the thing that the Shinra Corporation is doing to us sucks, and someone should do something about it. I'm someone who's with me. And he has a history of standing up for the underclass. This is something that he did with what was the name of that casino place?
Outer Heaven? No, that's the name of the bar, I think. I don't know. Look, I didn't really play the game. I just know stuff about it.
Point is, this man is no stranger to fighting for people's rights.
Yeah.
It's just something that's built into his history, and frankly, I love him.
And I've certainly heard more people who are fans of him than any critics. I've heard very few out there, so I try not to be in the habit of getting offended on somebody else's behalf. So that said, what does he do?
Well, for 3 mana and a red, you get a 4/4 human rebel with reach.
Yeah.
Makes sense because of the gun arm.
Of course.
Whenever Barrett Wallace attacks, it deals damage equal to the number of equipped creatures you control to defending player.
Okay, so this is interesting, especially because some of the members of Avalanche are characters that have like job select and other abilities like it. Like if we take a look at red cards with job select. Yeah, say we look at the red mage's rapier.
That is one hot red mage, not gonna
Whew.
lie.
Oh yeah. So because it has job select, that means that you play an equipment spell, but it comes with a creature and attaches to it, and it gives these abilities, which are pretty good. But that means that Barrett Wallace will see that as a equipped creature that you control, even though normally in order to make an equipped creature you need to cast a creature spell and an equipment spell. But this is one of a few ways, in this set in particular, where you can get one card that is both the creature and the equipment. Even better...
Don't have a creature, we'll give you one absolutely free.
The Red Mage's Rapier there creates a hero and also makes it a wizard. That's fine, but you can do even better with For Mirrodin, which I've mentioned a number of times in our review earlier, where the cards that have For Mirrodin say that they create a rebel.
Ooh.
Wouldn't you know it? And there are definitely some rebel synergies within this set.
Now I'm imagining Barrett on Mirrodin, and he would definitely be all about giving those rotten Phyrexians what for.
Oh yeah, he'd absolutely be doing the For Mirrodin thing here. And if you play Barrett as your commander, you definitely want to be playing... I mean, I don't know that all of these are good, but some of them certainly are. You might just want to play all of them anyway, because they are both an equipment and a rebel on the same body. And I believe there is some other rebel synergies out there, even in this set. I'm not seeing them here. But, wait, activate abilities on rebel cards cost an additional sacrifice a land to play?
Maybe
what
not
the
that
hell,
one.
Prophecy?
Maybe not that one.
Yeah, no, not that one. But okay. But I promise you there are. In fact, I think another one of them is just
Avalanche!
Avalanche something or other. Not you.
Avalanche of
You.
Sector 7.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. They're going to come up. Wait. Why weren't they in this? Oh, right, because they're from the commander deck and not from the main set.
Right.
But yeah, so they're a rebel. Their power is equal to the number of artifacts your opponents control. Okay, so anyway, there are more rebels in this set. You can come closer to having a rebel deck. So that said, where does he go on the tier list?
Let's see. He passes the vanilla test, so that's a great start.
Yeah, yeah. But let's see.
I think that being mono red is really the only thing that's holding him back, because this gives a pretty interesting suggestion for what kind of deck to build around him. It's all about equipping.
Mm-hmm. And then in order for his ability to happen, he has to attack, which reach doesn't matter if you tap him. He deals damage equal to the number of equipped creatures you control to defending player.
To defending player. He's going to do a lot of direct damage just right there.
Yeah. I mean, I think that makes him solid, but not terribly exciting. I think this is where I kind of wish I had a different category, between questionable and good, because I don't know if... he's better than questionable, but he's not better in the 99. I think I gotta put him on the low end of good.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, because I don't think he's great, but he's fine. And if
There's
you want to do rebels,
here.
I don't know that there's a better rebel commander right now. Anyway, let's take a look at Clive Ifrit's Dominant, who is the protagonist from Final Fantasy XVI.
Yeesh, we're just making all of the summons our bottoms today, aren't we?
Absolutely, especially this guy. I mean, when you think about, like, okay, we're going to have all of the main characters be the dominant of a major summon, and they can, like, transform in and out of them. And so what element do we want to have our protagonist? Fire.
Cliche.
But it's still cool.
If you say so.
Yeah.
To me, there's a point where if something's cliche enough, it just becomes not cool.
Well, I think that Final Fantasy has done enough different takes on the kinds of magic that your main characters have that I'll give them a pass on this one. I think it's still cool when they did it. But
I'll get back to you on that.
On the mechanics, what does Clive do?
Well, for 4 mana and 2 red, you get a 5/5 human noble warrior.
Noble. Okay.
And when Clive enters, you may discard your hand and then draw cards equal to your devotion to red.
Oh.
And for 4 mana and 2 red, and a tap, you can exile him and then return him to the battlefield transformed, just like with a lot of his other friends.
Mm-hmm.
Here we've got Ifrit, Warden of the Inferno. He's a 9/9, and on his first turn, he does Lunge, which is where Ifrit fights up to one other target creature. And
Okay.
for his second and third turns, Brimstone. Add 4 red mana.
Whoa.
If Ifrit has 3 or more lore counters on it, exile it, then return it to the battlefield face up. Okay. That's a lovely 9/9, but you only really get to use it on turn 2.
Let the flames burn within you. No, let them burn without.
That's it, I'm calling it. Ifrit is not a bottom. He is a top.
I mean, he seems like a willful horse that this guy's got to break.
Good luck.
Yeah, I just watched a video about Aragorn the other day where he did that, and that was kind of a big deal. But, okay, so 6 mana for a 5/5. The main thing that he does immediately is do this kind of wheel effect on yourself. How good is this? Well, wheel effects are at their best when you have no cards in hand, and then you draw some. Considering that he costs 6, you can probably have your whole hand dumped by the time that he comes out in a typical game. Okay, great. So he's probably showing up when you need him to. He's a 5/5 for 6, which doesn't pass the vanilla test, but it's close enough if the abilities are good. And a 5/5 is still generally relevant in combat, even in late-game Commander. And he draws you cards equal to your devotion to red. Your devotion to red is something that you can definitely focus on before he even comes out with things like Fanatic of Mogus, which is a favorite card of mine. When it enters the battlefield, it deals damage to each opponent equal to your devotion to red. So that's great. You can also have Kiki Jiki is my favorite card in Magic's history. And that adds 3 to your devotion to red. You can make copies of Fanatic of Mogus and other red creatures you control. And keep in mind that a copy does copy the mana cost. So even the temporary copy that Kiki makes will contribute to your devotion to red. So when you're likely discarding almost nothing, you're drawing potentially quite a bit. And that's before you do his super move. So then he turns into Ifrit, a 9/9 that fights something.
Yep.
So you were talking about how, they can't attack except for the one time, and can you recall for us, like, kind of how that works?
Oh, well, once they're transformed, because this is the first time entering the battlefield, then they have summoning sickness. So they're not going to be able to attack when they get that first lore counter.
Right.
When they get that second lore counter, they can attack. But when they get that third lore counter, they have their effect, and then they get transformed right back.
Correct. And they have to tap in order to do the transformation. So Clive can't attack, and Ifrit can't attack on the turn that you flip it. But makes up for that a bit by the fact that it fights.
Which makes sense for fire, because fire aggressive.
And fights like crazy hard. 9 power? Holy jeez. In fact,
Yeah, something's probably getting kicked off the field.
this is probably a really good deck for Warstorm Surge, a card that I don't often play anymore because it costs 6 mana and the game's a little faster these days. But if you're having your commander enter the battlefield for 5, and then flip into a 9, and then flip back into a 5, your commander is leaving and returning to the battlefield repeatedly.
Ooh, yeah.
And then you are encouraged by that whole devotion thing to be playing a lot of permanents that are on the battlefield. Perhaps they're creatures. Perhaps you're doing the Kiki Jiki thing.
And you're probably going to want to cast your Warstorm before you get Clive on the field, but once
Sure.
you do, then yeah, it enhances him.
Yeah, I mean, if you draw Warstorm Surge, then I think you play that first, before Clive. If you don't draw Warstorm Surge, fine. Maybe you will after playing Clive. So,
You can still get that nonsense going because of Clive's transforming.
Yeah, so despite not being able to attack on the turn that he flips, this is one of the few cards of this type where you might actually have one workaround to it. You might be able to give him haste.
Ooh.
He doesn't return tapped, so you could flip him around, and then you've got anger in the graveyard. You've got, I don't know, Rising of the Dawn, I think? Rising of the Day or something like that. There's a lot of ways of giving haste. Swiftfoot Boots, Lightning Greaves, anything like that.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in red, you've got 3 times as many ways of giving him haste. So you could attack with the 9/9 and then attack with it again. And you're making 4 red. We haven't even mentioned that.
Yeah.
What you gonna do with all that red?
All that red inside that deck.
Yeah, I don't even know. It doesn't really matter, honestly, because you're gonna build your deck with ways of using that. It could be some kind of fireballs, it could be some kind of, I don't know, board wipes, or just more fat creatures that will trigger when they enter and leave repeatedly. Heck, one more thing that is kind of a shoo-in for this deck is gonna be Perforos. I think it's spelled something like that. Yeah, Perforos, God of the Forge. Probably one of the first things you think of when you talk about a red deck that has creatures enter the battlefield. Whenever one does, Perforos deals 2 damage to each opponent. Great. And your commander is going to be entering, flickering, entering, flickering, entering. So you play a lot of other creatures that are going to have enters effects. Definitely play the Kiki Jiki in the 99. And you can, deal some extra damage to all of your opponents with Perforos and a million other cards like it. I think one last one here, Agate Instigator, is a newer one with Offspring. If you do the Offspring, you'll have 2 Agate Instigators, and each of them triggers for 1 damage to each opponent whenever a creature enters under your control. equaling out to the same amount of damage as Perforos.
You can do a lot of slapdash here.
Oh yeah, and not to mention all the damage doublers that you have access to in red. Normally, I would say that being monocolor holds a commander back. It still kind of does. I think if you were playing red-green, you could ramp into him a little better.
Woo!
Or, I don't know, red-blue or red-black. Maybe you could ditch your hand a little easier, and I don't know. But since you want devotion to red, you actually want to be playing mono-red.
You could say this guy's in his element.
Absolutely. So, you know what? I think Clive is exciting.
Ooh.
Yeah, he goes all the way up into the top tier for me. In part because, I'll be honest, Kiki Jiki is my favorite card in Magic's history. I would 100% put Kiki Jiki in the 99. And because my actual Kiki Jiki deck is CEDH, so I don't get to play it every day. But I could play it in the 99 of this, and it might be fair. Maybe.
All right.
So, that said, let's go on to another protagonist, this one from a long time ago instead of the most recent one. We have the second oldest, back in Final Fantasy II. Was it Firion? Wild Rose Warrior?
Yep, this is what he looks like in Final Fantasy Dissidia as well.
Oh, nice. Oh, and from his Yoshitaka Amano concept art.
Yes.
Which, gosh.
Such pretty art.
Yes. Okay.
Do we have any of that up here in the prints?
Let's see. Well, a lot of Yoshitaka Amano's art is going to be featured in the reprints that you'll find in the subset called Through the Ages. So there.
There we go. There's our
Hero
guy.
of Light and Furion Swordmaster. So this is a subset of 64 cards that I think you only find in collector boosters. Don't quote me on that, because honestly this stuff's kind of confusing. If you can find these guys in normal boosters, holy jeez, this is an awesome subset. Because Counterspell is absolute staple, SRAM absolute staple, Ranger Captain of Eos is a staple, Urza super valuable, Bolus's Citadel is a staple and somewhat valuable, Dark Ritual.
This art is so friggin' pretty!
Every other card is a banger in terms of mechanics, of what it's a reprint of, and we get lots and lots of original concept art from Final Fantasy.
Oh my god, look at Kefka.
I know, look at Gilgamesh!
Look at Princess Sarah!
So much of this is Yoshitaka Amano. The intention
just
of
being
this
himself
whole,
here.
Yeah, the intention of this whole subset is to just feature mostly Yoshitaka, but art that people are familiar with already from Final Fantasy, including screen grabs from cutscenes from 8 and from 9, and from, I don't think that was in a cutscene, I don't know, from 7.
Of course not, it's not nearly blocky enough.
Ah, that one was in a cutscene, that was promo art, that's a cutscene. So, yeah, Square Enix. So this is just going to be repackaging a lot of the art that people are familiar with from Final Fantasy and putting them on cards, in addition to how they are commissioning new art for all the other cards.
Just looking at it is bringing the Final Fantasy theme to my head. I love it.
Oh yeah. So, that said, what does he do?
Well, for 2 and a red, you get a 3/3 human rebel warrior. Equipped creatures you control have haste.
Ooh.
Whenever a non-token equipment you control enters, create a token that's a copy of it, except it has this equipment's abilities cost 2 less to activate.
What?
Sack that token at the beginning of your next upkeep.
Oh. Okay, well, so, first off, we've got another mono-red rebel here, and this one also cares about equipped creatures, giving them haste, which is great. I mean, granted, a few of the most commonly played equipment, like Swiftfoot Boots, Lightning Greaves, and Lava Spur Boots, do give haste already, but this shares that for all of your equipment now.
Everybody's
so
fast
nice.
And everybody's armed.
Hell yeah. And it passes the vanilla test. It's going to be a 3/3 for 3. You're likely going to be playing... If he's your commander, you're going to be playing a deck full of equipment that don't give haste.
Yeah, because you don't need it.
Yeah, you don't.
Your buddy's got you covered.
Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, whenever a non-token equipment you control enters, you create a token that's a copy of it, and it equips for 2 less. I imagine you're probably going to be playing a lot of equipment then that does have that equip cost of 2. Like, oh, I don't know, how about... Okay. Sword of blank and blank. Yeah, there's a... Oh.
The swords of this and that.
Yeah, probably not body and mind. Probably feast and famine is one good one here. Giving protection from 2 colors, giving +2/+2, giving 2 really strong triggered abilities, and the equip cost of 2 is the key thing. So you can play him, and then you can follow him up with any of the swords. I mean, the swords are just generally good. Fire and Ice is amazing. Hearth and Home's pretty good. Light and Shadow's not bad. I like Sinew and Steel just because of the creature kill part. Really, anything here, even Sword of the Animist, costs 2 to equip. So sure, you get a... Oh, wait, actually, that wouldn't be that great because Sword of the Animist is legendary, and this makes a copy of it.
Oh, yeah, then you have that problem.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't hurt. You get a copy and then the copy dies, I guess, but it wouldn't help. Not immediately. But yeah, that does mean that you get, like,
Okay, so avoid the
copies that she
legendary
equip.
equipment so you don't run into the
Yeah.
legendary problem.
Yeah, stuff like that. But honestly, this seems like a blitz deck. You're just going to be playing creatures, probably just really efficient ones. And actually, that might be the question. Do you play a deck where the creatures have high power and toughness for their cost, but then all of your equipment add abilities? Or do you play creatures that have lots of good abilities, menace and trample and stuff, and then your equipment just makes them large?
Well, with Furion, I'd say it looks like you can kind of choose whichever. It kind of depends on you.
I would say the best bet is to do both.
Little of this, little of that.
I have an equipment deck where, as a rule, every equipment that I play has to add power to my commander and an ability. Has to do at least 2 things. And you could make that same rule for your own creatures. You might find it a little shallow in just mono red, but you can probably still find enough creatures out there that have cool extra abilities. And there was one that comes to mind for me that was a red creature with Wither. Let me see if I can find it real quick here. No, back to the just search for red cards with a word. Okay, never mind. Advanced. Okay, red, Wither, and I'm looking for a creature. And let's see if I can find the thing I'm thinking of real quick. By the way, you guys will want to do lots of searches like this as well. I think this is the guy I'm thinking of. Yeah, so 2-mana 2/2. Vanilla test
Passed.
plus Wither, which, why don't you read that to us?
This deals damage to creatures in the form of -1/-1 counters.
And?
Whenever Stigma Lasher deals damage to a player, that player can't gain life for the rest of the game.
Yeah, that seems like a fun thing to put in your mono red deck. Put an equipment on this guy that gives him flying or, an extra couple power and toughness, maybe trample. You're having a good time.
Yeah, be a complete nuisance with this guy.
Absolutely. So that's just the first example that came to my mind as an old card with a unique ability here. So, the question then is where to put him. And is he exciting to me? I think that we do still have a lot of competition for other equipment decks and equipment decks that give that are just one color do hold us back a bit. Although I just talked about Barrett, who does kind of the same thing. I actually think in some ways Furion is better.
Yeah,
So
I agree. I think he's got a little more going on here.
yeah, I think either way, because they both are red characters that are rebels and care about equipment, I think you play them in each other's decks.
They probably get along just fine.
I think Furion's probably the better commander because I think it would be great to rely on haste on all of your creatures. A little bit more than your commander attacking can punch through some extra damage, although your mileage may vary. It might be just a matter of taste.
It's a bit ironic. Barrett's the leader of his organization, and Furion is not.
Oh, Well, let's see. Next on our list is Freya Crescent, who's from Final Fantasy IX.
Ooh, I barely remember her, but I do love a red mage. Seriously, if I were a Final Fantasy character, I would want to be a red mage, and I just love red mages in general. They're your
Oh, yeah.
backup. I mean, they're your backup healer, your backup wizardry spells, your backup swords person. They're your backup everything. Whatever you've got, they've always got your back.
Yeah, and while they may be kind of a jack of all trades, master of none in a sense, if you get them up to high enough levels, then they kind of are a master of all.
Well, there's actually, in my experience, there's always a limit on how deep they can go into each one.
Sure.
They're never going to be as deep as a specialist, but they can be just good enough. And if nothing else, they'll be like, oh crap, the healer went down. It's okay. I've got everybody's HP. Now, will the item slave please dole out the Phoenix Downs already?
Yeah. So, that said, Freya Crescent, what does she do?
Well, for 1 mana, you get a 1/1 Rat Knight
Rat Knight. Neat.
with Jump. During your turn, she's got flying.
Oh, so she's kind of a dragoon, too? I guess so.
That's red mages for you.
Huh.
Little of everything. For tap, you get a red. Spend this mana only to cast an equipment spell or activate an equip ability.
Okay.
Somebody put a sword in my hand.
So, she's an uncommon, so she's not crazy powerful. But she does seem quite good.
She is passing the vanilla test today.
Yeah, and having flying on your turn is better than having it on your opponent's turns, I think. Because then you have evasion when you're attacking, when it's most relevant, and that is pretty cool to have on a red creature that comes out on turn 1. And I've said before that cards like Sword of the Animist are best in a deck where you can reliably get out a creature to put it on as soon as possible. In this deck, you're going to have an easy time doing that. You're having an easy time getting a lot of equipment onto this creature on like turn 2 and swinging on turn 3 evasively with commander damage, and she helps you cast the equipment.
She is lightning fast, and your deck should have no fat on it and be as aerodynamic as possible here.
Mm-hmm. In fact, a secret like kind of pro tip that I've been doing in one of my best commander decks. You know how a staple of any commander deck is how much ramp it plays, so that you can get up to the big expensive spells? What do you think happens if you play no ramp? That seems bad.
You get screwed.
Yeah, unless you don't have expensive spells in your deck. If your deck is all 1s, 2s, and 3s, and you're playing almost nothing above that, then you can devote some of the spell slots that would go to ramp into actual relevant spells, and you can also play fewer lands, devote some of that to spells, and you can have this really efficient, really low-to-the-ground deck that can run off of 2 or 3 mana the entire game. It can get out Freya or whoever your commander is early, equip her, and you're going to be sitting with like 3 or 5 cheap spells that you can mess around with at any given time. That might be the way to go with Freya, is keep it a really low-to-the-ground deck. Try it.
Yeah.
And
also, red mages just dress better.
Yeah. Let's get that out extended a little bit there. Also, she probably goes in certain knight decks, as some of the more aggressive knight decks include red. Rats usually aren't a tribe that includes red, but I believe they do a little bit. You might be able to find 1 or 2 rat commanders out there that include red. Totentans, I think, comes to mind.
Totentan's right!
Mm-hmm, like the Pied Piper kind of guy. And one last thought on this is that I love that they are starting to finally have red creatures in Magic that are mana dorks. It's just a red creature that taps for red mana.
I'll pay it! Just get it out here!
Yeah! Because I think that red makes a lot of sense to be a color that makes mana off of its creatures. Maybe not so much as green does, of course, but on some of the creatures. It sucks that it limits it to only casting or equipping equipment spells, but that at least gives you a theme. She's not as generically useful, but if she's your commander, then that's...
You've got a direction.
Yeah. So, now the question is, how good is she?
I think she should go into either good or exciting.
Yeah, I kind of want to put her, like, maybe in the middle here. I think I would want to brainstorm her a bit to find out if she's actually exciting. Just because, like, I think that, you know what? For somebody who hasn't played that low to the ground, low mana cost, aggressive kind of deck with lots of cheap tricks in it, it may be very exciting to them. If they're used to playing Kodama's Reach and Cultivate and all that to get up, to 7 mana and cast the relevant thing. No, no, no. What if you're, threatening lethal on like turn 4?
That is pretty exciting, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, when I'm saying like no ramp, you still play Soul Ring. Don't be stupid.
Oh, for heaven's
You
sake.
still play Arcane Signet. Those cards are unbeatable.
The free space on the Commander bingo card is Soul Ring.
Yeah, and it's usually also Arcane Signet. Although, the third most commonly played card, I think, Command Tower, you don't play in these monocolor decks. So at least you get a 98 card deck instead of 97. But yeah, so she's got the evasion built in, she's got a little bit of ramp built in, she comes out early, but you need to make her bigger. So find all the equipment should make her bigger somehow. That's the key thing. And then play some tricks that like pump her or that protect her in some way. A little bit of removal, your Chaos Warps, maybe even Tybalt's Trickery. So try it out. I've been doing this in a green-white deck, and it's been working great for me because you have a lot more options there. I think that being mono-red is a little worse, but still could be interesting to you. So, then we're on to Gilgamesh,
Master at Arms.
Oh, I'm excited about this guy.
I'm struggling to remember this guy.
Okay, from Final Fantasy V. I actually saw a clip the other day of Gilgamesh being in the Final Fantasy VII remake. It sounds like Sephiroth is like leading the crew around the world to various places where there are summons, because he shows up, finds Gilgamesh and goes, "Nah, I don't even want him," and then has the Clouds team fight Gilgamesh and I guess add him as a summon.
But he's in Final Fantasy V for this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been a summon in multiple sets, but he was originally a guy in 5. That's what I've heard, is that he was a character, a living human man in Final Fantasy V, and he's a summon in later games.
God, I'd have to look at his sprite in Final Fantasy V to remember properly. Sorry, folks.
I don't know.
It's been a while, okay?
Anyway, let's read the card.
Alright, for 4 mana and 2 red, you get a 6/6 human samurai. And whenever that samurai enters or attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may put any number of equipment cards from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. When you put one or more equipment onto the battlefield this way, you may attach one of them to a samurai you control.
Okay, so this is another mono-red equipment commander. Can you see what I was talking about?
Yeah,
About how like there's a lot of competition for this role?
We are getting a little crowded on that.
Yeah, and there were quite a few in white, and there's going to be a few more in red and white. Granted, I believe that one of the draft archetypes for this set is red-white equipment, so good to see it represented, up and down the rarity and stuff. This guy is the most expensive one that we've looked at so far in terms of mana, and I guess that's not cheap. $26. Oh, that's cool looking.
Ooh, oh yeah.
6 mana, 6/6.
That's pretty.
Passes the vanilla test.
It does.
And one of the best things to me for a commander is that he triggers when he enters or attacks. So he does something even if someone destroys him before he gets to untap, but he also does something every turn if he sticks around. That's awesome. And what is the thing that he does? Does. You go find equipment. Let's look at it again here. Any number onto the battlefield?
Yep.
Wait a second. Oh no!
I have weapons!
Okay, you remember I was talking about all the job select and 4 Mirrodin cards?
Yeah.
And that's a way that you can play equipment that come with a free creature, so you can increase the number of equipment in your deck without running out of people to put it on. So if you reveal a job select or a 4 Mirrodin equipment with this, put it on the battlefield, you get a free body underneath it, along with the free equipment.
This guy is shaking the box and taking all of the candy that falls out. And taking all of the swords that fall out.
Mm-hmm. And
if the sword happens to be attached to a person, well, then so much the better.
Also, there's one more mechanic that I've mentioned in other videos, but it falls right in line with all this, is living weapon, and I don't know why it's taken a minute to search here. Oh, never mind. It leaves in creature. This is actually a glitch, by the way, in Scryfall, that if you do an advanced search that includes a type, and then you back up, the type won't be visible here, but it will be like that. So now I've deselected creature, and now we should find some results. There we go. Okay, so yeah, you absolutely want to be playing Batter Skull and Cauldra Complete. Imagine this being revealed with Gilgamesh.
Oh no!
So this is when Gilgamesh enters or attacks, you can potentially find Cauldra Complete and put it onto the battlefield. It will make a little 0/0. Oh, the living weapon rules text is left off of here. Okay, well, you need to know what living weapon does, and this is what it does. Actually, you want to read that?
When this equipment enters the battlefield, create a 0/0 black germ creature token and attach this to it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm not equipped to something? I'll make one.
Mm-hmm. So, excellent with Gilgamesh, because you'll just reveal this as one of your top 6. Holy shit. And you'll get a 4/4 Vigilance lifelink that can bounce itself for 3.
Jeez, he's turning your deck into a creature catcher.
Mm-hmm. You can play all of these, and a lot of these are way better when you don't have to pay the 6 mana cost to cast them. Like this 3/1 with haste, pretty bad. Unless it's free. And
Gilgamesh can totally do that.
Yes. And oh no, what happens if you actually draw the card into your hand? Now you have to pay the mana cost. Well, probably yes. But you can do stuff like Scroll Rack, comes to mind, where you can effectively take cards from your hand and put them on top of your library.
Oh!
Okay, and
yeah, do this. It will be so annoying, but it would be fantastic.
Yeah, you also probably want to play a fair amount of Surveil and Scry. Things allow you to manipulate the top card of your library. I was about to say Sensei's Divining Top. Actually, a little bit of a... Okay, this might be a little unfair. I'm going to give you a test. Okay?
Oh, no.
Okay, you've seen Gilgamesh. You know what he does, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Why would you not want to play Sensei's Divining Top in a Gilgamesh deck?
Okay.
So this is a great card.
Well...
Take a guess.
Would you let me talk?
Okay, I'm letting you talk.
Alright, for 1 mana, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put them back in any order. That's too shallow for Gilgamesh, so it's not that useful.
Yeah.
That it?
That's the main thing right there. Yeah, Sensei's Divining Top is normally a great way for ensuring that the right card is on top of your library, among the top 3. But Gilgamesh looks at the top 6.
Right, he goes 6 deep.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter if you rearrange the top 3, he's going right through all of them anyway. So Sensei's Divining Top, I think, is great, especially in decks like Mono Red, honestly, where it would be great if you could guarantee that you'll get your next mountain on time and stuff like that. But it's not going to help you with Gilgamesh. So he passes the vanilla test. He's got a trigger that triggers early and often. The trigger is quite powerful.
And when you put 1 or more equipment on the battlefield this way, you can just attach it to a samurai you control.
Wouldn't you know it, he's a samurai.
You're probably going to want to put some other samurai in there to be his friends, but...
Yeah, but unfortunately there aren't many good samurai. There are a couple, though. You could play him in an... Oh, you could play him in an Ishin deck. Ishin's a very popular commander, assuming I spelled him right. I did not. Double S. Okay. Ashin is a samurai. He includes the color red, and if a creature attacking causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. And wouldn't you know
Ooh.
it, attacking causes this guy's ability to trigger. So
Ooh.
actually, he's incredible in an Ishin deck because you can look at the top six, put equipment onto the battlefield or a bunch, equip one of them to a samurai, and then immediately do it again, and then you go to blockers. Whew. He's nowhere near that good as a commander himself, considering that just 6 mana in mono red is going to hold you back a bit. So honestly, I want to say that he's exciting. I do. And I even have a samurai deck, and he's going in the 99,
He
and
is
he'll be
darn
great.
near exciting, I think.
Yeah,
I think he's like at the top of good.
I think so too. Because in the end, I think he is going to be held back a bit by the fact that he's another mono red equipment commander, and that he costs 6 to cast. But he's very similar to Clive in that, also costing 6, has a pretty big bonus when he enters that is card advantage. So, but I think this is going to be more powerful because you can also whiff on the equipment. If you don't play enough equipment, you can find 0.
Oh, yeah. Or if you've already drained your equipment.
Yeah, or coming
Of course,
out.
if you've already drained your equipment, then you're probably well supplied.
Yeah, and it also doesn't add more cards to your hand, so if he comes out on turn 6 and you've already used up all your stuff, you're in top deck mode. You're completely gambling at that point. So I don't think he's as good as Clive, but, still pretty good. And still kind of exciting, just... That said, we're on to the selfie boy himself from Final Fantasy 15.
Whose name is literally Quicksilver.
Yeah, Prompto Argentum. That's basically what that means.
Yep.
But let's start off early on this guy. What does he do?
Alright, for 1 in red, you get a 2/2 human scout with haste and selfie shot, which means whenever you cast a non-creature spell, if at least 4 mana was spent to cast it, create a treasure token.
Okay, so he passes the vanilla test.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Scout is not really a relevant creature type yet. I believe there is a character we're going to be talking about later today who does care about scouts, but even then, not super great. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, that seems great. If at least 4 mana was spent to cast it. That is... And that's not saying, if you cast a 4 mana value spell, you have to spend 4 mana. There's no cheating on that cost. You get a treasure. And great that it's not a tapped treasure like a lot of similar cards are. But I think that this pretty quickly demotes him.
Yeah.
Prompto looks to me to be, maybe around here as better in the 99.
Okay.
Because there is, I believe in Red-Blue, a theme of casting spells for 4 or more mana and casting spells for 8 or more mana. Non-creature spells specifically. So, in a deck like that, I think he's great to drop on turn 2.
But as the leader of it, you would have to have a lot of... If you want to go with his effects, then you have to have a lot of non-creature spells that cost at least 4 mana, and that's a little on the pricey side, so...
Yeah, that's just an awkward amount of mana.
It does not lend to an efficient strategy.
Yeah, and he doesn't defend himself, he doesn't give you card draw or removal, and so he comes out, he's... also, recasting him late in the game is kind of bad because he's not very big. Casting him early with haste seems kind of good, but you're probably not going to be playing things in... I mean, I guess you could play equipment and auras as your non-creature spells, but still. I think the obvious place for him, you're going to see later on some other commanders that are multicolor, for instance, that care about 4 mana or more on a non-creature spell, and he'll go in them and he'll be fine. Just... He don't let him drive the car. He goes in the back seat. Or heck, in the front seat with his camera. Just don't let him drive the car.
No, the person who goes in the front seat is the one you can trust to get them to keep an eye on the GPS tracker. This guy's definitely backseat material.
Yeah, actually, it's going to be one of the other two then that's in the passenger seat. Gladiolus in the background here, by the way, fighting some like raptor dog kind of things with, I believe, a kettle. Um,
I think that's supposed to be a big sword.
I actually don't think it is. Hold on.
That's way too big to be a kettle.
I mean, that don't look like a sword to... Wait a second. No, you're right. It's foreshortened. It's just a rectangular sword coming almost straight at us.
Yes.
What the heck? You are correct. And now that I realize what it's supposed to look like with, like, foreshortening and everything, I do believe he has a sword like that. Which is kind of nonsense. Like, why would you have a sword and then you make it flat on the end? It's not even edged on the end. Like, there's a reason why swords normally don't look like this.
Oh, it's because he has stabbed it dramatically into the ground too many times, and
Oh.
now he's just kind of...
Yeah, every time that he finishes a battle, he like thrusts his sword real hard into the ground as part of his victory stance, and
now
he
it's
did that
just
enough
flat.
times that now he's just got a flat sword. Okay.
It's because you want a sword that can double as a table, that's why.
Or a surfboard. All right. Next, we're going on to. Can you help me pronounce this one?
Is it Queen Brawn or Queen Brane?
Brain?
Brain?
I don't know. I mean, I look at her and I don't want to say brain.
It looks like
I want to say
Brawn.
blueberry.
Okay. So Queen Blueberry for 2 and a red gets you a 2/1 human noble.
Okay.
I know, she's human, I swear.
Despite being blue and puffy.
Anyway, she has prowess, which means whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature gets 1/1 until end of turn. Whenever Queen Brawn attacks, create a 0/1 black wizard creature token with, whenever you cast a creature spell, this token deals 1 damage to each opponent.
Okay, so this is another one that is fitting into a mechanic that we're going to see a number of other times, but it's far from the best one at what it does. So, Queen Brawn, if she's somehow your favorite character from Final Fantasy IX, then have at her, but and being a 3 mana 2/1 seems kind of bad, but with prowess, you can, buff that up when it matters. She repeatedly makes wizards, which is pretty great. And these wizards that trigger off of casting non-creature spells to bop each opponent for 1, pretty great.
I do love the black mages in these games because look how cute they are. They've got that sick hat, they've got the sweet blue robes and the glowing yellow eyes. I love them.
Oh yeah, Final Fantasy IX is like peak black mage design. That's where Vivi comes from, after all. So I can definitely see you playing a deck where you play Queen Brawn and then you attack with her and you get a wizard, and then in the middle of combat you do like a lightning bolt and it makes her bigger and it bops all of your opponents and you kill one of their other creatures or something. There's some cool tricks you can do like that, but gosh, you kind of have to go that hard before she starts being good, starting off as a 2/1 here. I'm actually really surprised I didn't make her at least a 2/2, if not a 2/3. So that said,
She's at
she's
least
way
going-
better in the 99.
Yeah.
I think she's going to go maybe down at the bottom of this, in part because I know we're going to see at least 2 or 3 other commanders with this theme that are better, in large part just because they're multicolor, but also I think they don't have 1 toughness. Having 1 toughness as a commander is super dangerous.
The cat has come over and is now purring in my lap, and I like that.
Wonderful. So, we're now on Raubon, Bull of Alamigo?
Rauban, Bull of Alamigo. Alright. For 1 and a red, you get a 2/2 human warrior with ward. Pay life equal to Rauban's power.
Oh.
Whenever Rauban attacks, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to target attacking creature.
Now, what did I say about mono red equipment matters?
Well, here we are again.
Yep. So it's another one. But he does have a pretty good defensive ability in that ward pay life equal to his power. So obviously that means that for 0, people can get around the ward cost. If they're just willing to take some damage, or rather loss of life, then they can get around it. Um, but if you're playing mono red, you're playing an aggressive deck. You're going to be playing lots of creatures with equipment who all want to just get in the red zone and make people hurt. And if you start putting things on him that add to his power, and then they want to try to remove him, gosh, that's going to be a lot of mana. Or, sorry, a lot of life lost. Um, actually, for some reason, the first thing that comes to my mind is Ember Cleave, even though this is probably not the optimal here, because it, in theoretically, technically only adds 1 to the power.
Oh, jeez, and look at that cost.
Well, you're probably not paying that cost. Why don't you read this one for us?
Oh, the spell costs 1 less to cast for each attacking creature you control, and it has flash.
Yep, so you're never paying 6. You're usually not even paying 5. You're usually paying less than that. And then it enters during combat, usually after your opponents have chosen how they're going to block, so that you can play this as a combat trick. And then, of course, it attaches for free the first time. And gives +1/+1 double strike and trample. So, is this the best card in a raw ban deck? No, you probably want something that gives more power for less mana and stuff. But is it a great card in this deck? Yes. And when he attaches an equipment you control, so that means that you're getting around the equip cost. And that is going to make a lot of people think of this hammer. Shoot, what's it? Yeah, this hammer. Check this out.
This hammer. For 1 mana, you get your equipped creature gets a +10/+10 and loses flying, assuming it had it to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
But its equip cost is 8. So yeah, if you have Raubon, you probably want the hammer.
Oh yeah, Colossus Hammer is probably the best card in the deck at that point. And you may note that that's something that we kind of didn't say about a lot of the rest of the mono red equipment commanders. Is like, what is the card that works best with this guy?
But how do they Colossus Hammer?
Well, I mean, you probably gotta draw it. So, but that's the thing though, is that you do have a more clear direction in a way than simply playing dudes with equipment, or, well, I guess some of the rest of them you do have a big incentive to do, like the 4 Mirrodin and stuff, and that's not necessarily the case here. Because if you're doing Living Weapon, for instance, you kind of steal the Living Weapon off of the germ. So is he better or worse than those? I think if you have Colossus Hammer in your hand, he's better than those, and if you don't, he's worse. So, the thing that is kind of tearing it for me is he better than Barrett or Freon as a commander?
Furion, not Freon.
You're right. I think no. He's actually probably going to be better in the 99.
Yeah.
Although that ward cost is pretty good, in the end, I think you're going to struggle with a lot of the rest of the game. Unless you get that one amazing Colossus Hammer. But also, if Colossus Hammer comes out and you don't have Radon ready to go, then Colossus Hammer sucks because you can't pay the cost. And vice versa, if you have Radon and you don't have something like Colossus Hammer out.
Raubon, not Radon.
Radon's from friggin' Elden Ring.
You're redonkulous.
Okay. I guess I am. So I think that it's a lot more likely... he encourages you to play some cards that are bad without him. Rather than make some cards that are kind of good without him better, like the other ones do. So I think I'm going to put him as better in the 99. I think he's going to be great in assisting a lot of these other mono-red equipment commanders, but, like, jeez.
Now for the remaining question.
Mm-hmm.
Does he have a left arm?
Oh. No?
Huh. Okay.
I mean, actually, maybe genuinely no. Raubon. Oh, yeah. Boop. There we go. Where did they find him? Oh, yeah, they found him in that. Oh, and he's in A Realm Reborn. And wait, is he... He's not using his other arm here.
Yeah, he is. That's a shield.
Well, it's that could be attached to his shoulder, is what I'm saying. Like, is that maybe attached to his shoulder? What about here? Wait, he has an arm.
He has an arm.
Okay.
All right, he's bilaterally symmetrical.
Maybe he's missing a hand. I don't know. Okay, that's enough of that. Can you tell that we both have ADHD? So, we can go on to... Okay, maybe you know this one. Is this Cipher or Cipher?
I think it's Cipher, but
Okay.
there isn't voice acting in Final Fantasy VIII, so I can't tell you for certain.
True. And personally, I like the idea that if there's already a word pronounced Cipher, and it's spelled differently from this, then his name would make sense to not, therefore, be Cipher.
I guess technically it could be Safer.
I don't think he looks safer.
He is not.
I'm going to go with
If I recall
Cipher
correctly,
Almasi.
he's Squall's rival, who also wields a gunblade, and he's just kind of a douche.
I remember them being in the opening cutscene, like, slashing at each other, and I think he's the one who gives Squall his facial scar?
I'd have to play it again to know for certain.
Or at least watch the opening cutscene. But what does he do?
Well, for 3 into red, you get a 3/4 human knight, and whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gains double strike until end of turn.
Oh, alone, you say?
And he's got the power Fire Cross. Whenever Cipher Almasi deals combat damage to a player, you may cast target instant or sorcery card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard without paying the cost. If that spell would be put into your graveyard, you exile it instead.
Huh. Okay, so the first thing I'm noticing here, by the way, let's see if I can zoom in a little bit here in the art. What's that?
Hey! It's Squall!
It sure is. That's a little Easter egg for you.
Is this from that one scene where you two are, like, sword fighting each other while also hanging onto ropes while dangling hundreds of feet in the air? That's, like, the last thing I remember about Final Fantasy VIII. I didn't finish it.
I mean, that would make sense, except that he's not holding onto a rope, so he's, like, falling or something right here.
This might be right before that point, then.
Oh, well, maybe.
I remember that battle was moving places.
Okay.
You start in one place, you end up in others.
Okay, well, so
It was actually pretty cool.
All right. Well, we've got another human knight here, so this is another one that could go in some of the knight decks that already exist. And the whole whenever a creature you control attacks alone thing is... It's kind of an anti-synergy card in a way, because, like, one of my commanders...
No, I fight alone.
...is Ryu, and he says whenever a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, untap it and take an extra combat step, basically.
Oh.
So...
Oh, those would synergize so well.
Well, no, because he only cares about a samurai or warrior attacking alone.
Oh, and this guy's just a knight.
And he's a knight. So, Cipher would benefit Ryu, I guess, because Cipher doesn't care what the creature type is. But Ryu would not benefit Cipher. So I guess you could put Cipher in a Ryu deck, and but it would be kind of off flavor because he's not a samurai or a warrior. And personally, I built my Ryu deck as a samurai deck. That's why Gilgamesh is going in it, and maybe Cyan. But the problem with Ryu and a few other commanders like it is that then encourages you to play with just one creature who's going to get into combat. So he wants to be a one-man army. Can you pull that off in mono red? I don't think he can. I don't think he can do it. No haste, no evasion of any kind, not trample or anything like that. Granted, people don't want to block double strikers very much, but if you block them with a squirrel or an insect or something, that does stop the double striking. Now, he has to hit a player in order to get his other ability. So he doesn't have a built-in way of making that happen, no menace. So I would think then that the whole deck would be pretty much instants and sorceries with mana value 2 or less that also make you evasive. Because, sure, you could play equipment that gives him menace or flying or trample or something, but you want to be playing as many instants and sorceries that cost 3 mana or less in order to get his value off of his other ability. And even then, you're casting it from the graveyard, so it has to be one that you already paid for once, and then you get it again.
It kind of makes sense that this guy would be a soloist, but also
Yeah.
kind of a bad one, because if I recall his role in the game correctly, he's the guy who thinks that he's the dragon to the to the main villain, but he's really just a patsy.
Yeah. Okay. If this said whenever he attacks, that would maybe be good enough. If it said that you could cast it from your hand or like from the top of your library or something, I don't know. But as is, I think this is the poster child for questionable. In fact, I'm going to put him about
Yeah.
there. Because I don't know if you can really put that together. How many instants and sorceries can you play that give him flying or menace or something until end of turn in mono red? Or I guess maybe you just play a lot of burn spells and try to kill all the would-be blockers? Maybe. I don't think it comes together. And if it does, probably not going to be super fun, I don't think.
It all comes down to probably, like, it could probably be done, but it's probably going to take some doing, and it's not going to be that great.
And to me,
But,
that's
you know.
questionable.
But, the challenge is out there.
Yeah. Next, we have, I believe, the protagonist from Final Fantasy 12.
Luke Skywalker.
Oh yeah, he. Okay, I can see that. And there we go. Vaughn, Street Thief.
All right, for 2 and a red, you get a 2/2 human scout, and whenever one or more scouts, pirates, and/or rogues you control deal combat damage to a player, exile the top card of that player's library. You may cast it. If you don't, create a treasure token. Whenever you cast a spell you don't own, put a 1/1 counter on each scout, pirate, and rogue you control.
Okay, I mentioned a little bit ago when looking at Prompto, I believe, who is a scout, that there is a card in this set that cares about scouts in a way. This is it. It cares about scouts dealing combat damage to a player, which neither of these have any form of evasion. So, good luck. I'm sure you can find a way, but they don't help you. That is a challenge. And they do care about casting spells you don't own in order to put counters on them. So you can make your scouts bigger that way, but honestly, scout is not a good enough, like, kindred synergy kind of thing.
But this also encompasses pirates and rogues, so at least we're getting a bit more balance. We got more to work with here.
Yeah, and I can see the reason why they did that would likely be in part because Scouts isn't a deep enough creature type on its own. Rogues arguably isn't in mono red either. Pirates, though, Pirates are too deep right now. Pirates, especially in red and blue, are really good. And a little bit in black as well. So actually, he is having to compete with so many red and blue pirate commanders. Most of them are actually going to be 2 colors. One that he has to compete with is Breaches. And yeah, this version of Breaches notably has Partner. And Partner is one of the best mechanics in Commander because it allows you to have 2 commanders and at least
Which
2
often
colors.
means 2 colors.
Yep. And he is often paired up with Malcolm. Not that one. This one. I love you, Jeff Goldblum. I love you, Jurassic Park. But this is the partner that people use a lot.
Oh, he
Malcolm
is
in
handsome,
Breaches, sure. Malcolm in Breaches as a pirate commander deck is just really good. It's just Vaughn by himself cannot compete with that. And also, probably a lot of people at home are going to be like screaming at their screens here.
Ragavan!
Ragavan is a very similar card. For 1 mana, it's a 2/1. When it hits somebody for combat damage, you make a treasure and you look at the top card of their library and you may cast it this turn. So with him, it triggers off of all of your scouts, pirates, and rogues, not just himself. but he's for 3 mana instead of 1. Same power, and you get to either cast their spell or make a treasure. You don't do both at the same time like Ragavan does. And being 3 mana, that happens to be triple the amount of 1.
Yeah.
Crazy math on that. That comes out at a way... Ragavan, in part, is good because it comes out on turn 1 and hits on turn 2. Vaughn coming out on turn 3 and hitting on turn 4 means that it's much, much, much more likely to just not hit.
I like you, silly boy, but I don't think you're getting above questionable here.
Yeah, and you could also be playing... You could have a scout, pirate, or rogue that you get out a turn before Vaughn. Play him, hit with the other creature on the turn that you cast him. Get the value a little sooner. Great, except you're just playing mono-red rogues, and you're probably losing out on the evasion that way. So he's a real challenge, and it's unfortunate, because scouts... There's a lot of scouts in green. I kind of wish that he could be red-green, but he's not. And with that in mind, I agree with you, that he does go in questionable maybe about here.
All right, Zell.
We're on to the last of the mono-red commanders, Zeldinkt. Oh, what? Who gave that poor man that last name? Zeldinkt. Is that not like your neighbor in Doug, the Nickelodeon cartoon? Like Mr. Dinked? I don't know.
Wow.
All right. And they gave him a facial tattoo as well? Buddy. All right, let's read him.
Well, for 2 and a red, you get a 0/3 human
Sick.
monk.
You'll love to see the 0/3.
Off to a great start.
Uh-huh.
You may play an additional land on each of your turns.
I'm listening.
Zell gets +1/0 for each land you control.
I'm very much listening.
At the beginning of your end step, return a land you control to its owner's hand.
What? Okay, so you had me up until that last part. So, 3 mana, mono red, you can play additional lands every turn. That's pretty sick. He gets +1 for each land you control, so the turn he comes out, he's probably a 3/3, and you can then play another land, actually make him a 4/3. The next turn you can play 2 more, except you have to keep bouncing 1?
2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah, really. Now, I've heard some people saying that there is an upside to this, because Zeldinkt was previewed quite a while ago, so people talked about him a bit before. There are a lot of lands that enter the battlefield and do something good. One example given was... shoot, what's it called? It's the zombie land that's like a wasteland kind of thing. Oh no, and I'm forgetting it in the moment here. Okay, do you know anything about Zeldinkt from Final Fantasy VIII?
A little bit. He's kind of the best friend character, even though Squall is hugely misanthropic throughout most of the game. And basically, if this was a different story... If this was like a shonen anime, Zell would probably be the main character and Squall would be the too cool for school best friend.
Wait, so is Zell Joey Wheeler from Yu-Gi-Oh?
I don't think Yu-Gi-Oh's the most apt comparison. I would say he's the Naruto to Squall's Sasuke.
Oh, okay. Alright, well, regardless...
I don't even remember what his actual relevance in the plot is. I'm sorry.
Well, his weapons are his fists, so...
I don't even know if he has that much character depth. Does he actually do anything in the story except tag along and be loud?
Oof. Okay.
I don't remember.
Shade thrown, but Field of the Dead is the card I was trying to remember. A very popular, very valuable card. People play it in a lot of decks that care about lands. You just have to have 7 or more lands with different names, and then when this or another land enters under your control, you make a zombie. And so it would absolutely make sense if you get up to about 7 lands with this guy, and then you play a land and return it, and play a land and return it, and every time you make a zombie. Twice a turn, I should say.
That would be pretty neat.
Yes. And let's see. He can gain then a lot of power, although you're going to have a hard time triggering this unless you get 7 or more lands with different names. in a mono red deck,
That's
that's
gonna be
tough.
hard.
Because, you've got mountain, and you've got snow-covered mountain, and um, granted, I typically do play anywhere from 5 to 10 non-basics, even in a monocolor deck. But if this was a 2 or 3 color commander, then you'd be in business, absolutely. But he's not. So,
Homeboy might be better in the 99.
well, that's the other trick then, is that he would make sense being in a landfall deck, and landfall decks are most likely green. But in green, his abilities become a lot more commonplace and boring. So in a way, he might be best suited for a deck that is like green blue, or sorry, red blue, or red black, or I don't know. Um, or maybe there is a way of doing him in just mono red, and you have lots of lands that enter the battlefield and trigger something. Though in my experience, usually those effects are fairly weak. Making a 2/2 is one of the most powerful versions that I know of. So, I gotta say he's questionable.
By the way, I don't mean... If this guy's your favorite, I don't mean to hate on your homeboy. I just don't remember what he does in Final Fantasy
Oh,
VIII.
please do hate on him. I mean, anyone feeling like getting in the comments, please do.
I'm trying not to be rude here.
Okay, fine. Okay, how are we looking so far? We are done with the reds after an hour and 10 minutes so far.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so I've been debating whether we should do the green... You know what? There aren't very many of them.
Yeah.
Look at how many of them there are. Let's go ahead and do the green. Doesn't make sense for them to be their own video. Let's go into Bartz and Boko.
Bartz and Boko!
What do they do?
Well, for 3 and 2 green, you get a 4/3 human bird with an affinity for birds. And when Bartz and Boko enter, each other bird you control deals damage equal to power to target creature and opponent controls.
Okay, so when he enters, your other birds do like a big bite. Because fight is when they deal damage to each other. Bite is when your creature deals damage and the opponent's doesn't. So I guess this is
Big
your
beak, big
other
bite.
bird's bite when he enters. Affinity means that you're probably going to be playing him for a lot less than 5. Being a bird and caring about birds, you're playing him in a bird deck. However, it has never been more clear to me that a commander is better in the 99.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I thought he would do decent as a commander.
Oof. I mean, so best case scenario, you have 3 birds out in mono green. And the best birds in mono green include things like Birds of Paradise.
Birds of Paradise.
Yeah, that's not how you spell it. Brides of Paradise. Birds of Paradise is the best green bird. 0 power.
It pretty.
The second best green bird is probably the golden goose. And
Oh, heck yes.
great card. Wait,
But maybe not in
Fligand?
German?
hold on. Gilded goose. That was my problem. I got the wrong title. Anyway, you may note this also has 0 power. So if you do get these out on like turn 1 and 2, and then you potentially cast him, right afterwards, then, great, affinity for birds. He comes out as a 4/3. Cool. He enters, and each of your other birds deals damage equal to their power, so 0 to target creature. And then you've got a 4/3, and you're done. That's the end of what he does. Affinity only matters when you cast him. This only matters when he enters, and then he's just kind of large for a guy on a bird. So, I've never seen a creature that is better in the 99 than this, because also there's a lot of good birds in this set. So I'm not trying to discount all of the chocobos in this set that will make the Bartz and Boko deck better. But trust me, there are some good commanders out there that mention birds and include the color green, especially like that you'll see when the set launches. And he goes right in the 99. Don't make him your commander. He's not going to do anything for you.
Sorry, Bartz, I like you.
Mm-hmm. The diamond weapon.
Oh boy, I've got memories.
Oh yeah? Isn't this okay? Let me see. Well, actually, no. You tell me.
Optional boss fight from Final Fantasy VII.
Right. Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of weapons hiding around the world. The diamond's a pretty nasty one, but the biggest and nastiest, if I recall correctly, is the emerald one.
Oh.
But yeah, this guy's no slouch either. Anyway, for 7 and 2 green, you get an 8/8 legendary elemental.
Artifact elemental too.
This spell costs 1 less to cast for each permanent in your graveyard. It has
Oh.
reach. And prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to diamond weapon.
So that's a kind of indestructible, but only stopping combat damage. Look, who is going to get into a fight with the diamond weapon and win? What fight are you going to get the diamond win? Look, that's great if your opponent has a gigantic flying dragon. You know what? He's going to block. He's going to block the dragon. Okay.
Oh dear.
He's going to block the dragon, and that's the only time that ability is going to be relevant, where it prevents the combat damage. But even then, the dragon is going to get you a free permanent and draw you a card or two. So, diamond weapon I don't think stacks up to the dragon. But you will note that the dragon costs 4 and Wooburg. He
So that's
looks
9.
like he...
So they both cost 9.
Yes, however, he costs 1 less for each permanent card in your graveyard.
So there is a workaround there.
Oh yeah, and there's a lot of ways of getting permanent cards in your graveyard. From, like, let's see, how about Verdant Catacombs? Close.
Catacombs.
That'll do it. There. Look at that. It's a permanent card, and it has a way of putting itself in your graveyard. And it won't be any skin off your back as you go through the game. It'll just, find you a forest. You're playing mono green, I guess. You can play Satyr Wayfinder. Yeah. So, when this enters, you reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You may put a land from among them in your hand, the rest in your graveyard. Well, look at that. You would just be playing a deck that doesn't have many non-permanent cards. Satyr Wayfinder does it. There's also a new green creature in this set that is almost exactly like Satyr Wayfinder, except it says something about towns on it. And I think he's a human.
I guess there's also Steve.
Absolutely, Steve. Okay, most people know Steve, but Sakura Tribe Elder.
A.K.A. Steve.
Yeah, because it's just S-T-E, Steve. Yeah, this is a staple, and honestly, you could build a whole deck that was mono green and plays a lot of almost exclusively permanent cards that do ramp. I mean, sure, normally your green decks, you're going to be playing Cultivate, you're going to be playing Kodama's Reach, you're going to be playing Nature's Lore, and hell, you could still play a few of those, sure. They're great cards. But you can also play Wayfarer's Bauble. That's probably going to come up with a number of Wayfarers. It does. Wayfarer's Bauble, that's a staple in most decks that want to ramp, especially if they're not green, but you could play it in this one because then it gets an artifact in your grave. You could play Mesmeric Orb and other self-mill cards like this. So whenever you untap a permanent, you mill something. You can also dig deep into green for Delirium, I think is what it is. Delirium.
That's not how you spell delirium. It's with
No?
the second I.
Well, shoot. Okay. There we go. Yeah, so there's quite a bit of green Delirium cards, and Delirium does say, whenever this creature attacks, or, well, it could do anything. But if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, other attacking creatures get +4/+4 until end of turn. So Delirium cares about the number of card types in your graveyard. There was also something from Lost Caverns of Ixalan that was, I forget what the mechanic's called, but it doesn't matter. It's also about putting cards in your graveyard, specifically permanent cards. So with that said, you could get Diamond Weapon out for a whole lot less than 9. I wouldn't be surprised if you could get it out for like 4. And then you got an 8/8 for 4 with Reach. But as fun as it might be to try to get out Diamond Weapon as soon as possible, then what? once you've got an 8/8 reach, it is good to block with. It's not that great to attack with. No trample, no haste, no, flying, no double strike. It also has no defensive abilities that'll stop it from being removed by a normal spell, like swords or path or bounced or
It's big and you can't really fight
Deadly
it, but
Relic.
aside from that, it doesn't really have a lot going on for it.
You know what I'm going to say about Diamond Weapon? This is the most exciting questionable card. It is the most exciting in terms of, like, I think it'll be fun to try to jump through the hoops and make this happen, but then once you do, I think that you kind of go like, okay, I've cast my commander. Kill me. I'm done. I'm done.
I have done the thing that I set out to do.
Mm-hmm. Also, am I remembering the name of this card correctly? Yes. This might be a perfect Primal Surge deck. Why don't you read this card for us?
Let's see. For 8 and 2 green, you exile the top card of your library. If it's a permanent card, you may put it onto the battlefield. And if you do, repeat this process. Oh dear.
Yeah. So, you know what happens if this is the only non-permanent card in your deck?
What?
You put your entire deck onto the battlefield.
Oh no.
Yeah, so, I mean, just make sure that something like Concordant Crossroads is in the deck so that your creatures have haste or something. And then you could absolutely build this as a Primal Surge deck, have this be the only sorcery. And if you manage to cast this, you win the game because you just turn your entire library, go thud, and then splay it out and go, that's my battlefield, now you're dead. And you could probably also include a few other cards that, like, give all your creatures haste. You could drop Craterhoof Behemoth in there. I don't know. But also, if you don't want to make it just one turn, like, you throw your whole deck over, and if you don't win that turn, you die, you could put, like, Nature's Lore and 3 Visits in there, so you have, like, 3 sorceries, so that you don't put your entire deck. You just put, like, I don't know, 15 permanents onto the battlefield. That'll probably be enough to win. So, I think that's about enough said about Diamond Weapon. What about this weirdo?
I mentally pronounce it Kina or Quina.
Okay.
But it could also be Quina, I guess.
Yeah, are they a member of the Q Continuum from Star Trek The Next Generation? Because look at their creature type.
Well,
or maybe it's Ku?
I think it's just Q.
Maybe.
Or I guess it could be Qua.
Qua. But they're also the Qua Gourmet. So what do?
Well, for 2 and a green, you get a 2/3 Q. If one or more tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus a 1/1 green frog creature are created instead. And for 2 mana, and you sacrifice a frog, put a 1/1 counter on Quina.
Okay, so when Quina here is called a gourmet, what kind of food do they make? Exclusively frogs. Do you like eating frogs?
I've never had the opportunity.
Neither have I. I'm not excited to. I don't think I'm going to.
I've heard their legs are supposed to be good.
Well, I've heard that from the French. So.
And you have a problem with the French.
Well, technically I have a problem with French.
Not the French.
No, if we have any French fans, I don't hate you. No, the French did a lot of things right, okay? They helped the Americans in the Revolutionary War. They've helped in a lot of the good wars. They've also invented a lot of fine food. Didn't they put butter in pastry? Oh, love it. And not to mention their own revolution was pretty amazing.
The aftermath was really messy.
Well,
the aftermath was extremely messy.
Okay, but they have a democracy now, and
they did
that's
not
pretty cool.
screw around about getting it.
Yeah, so as much as I have problems with the French language, you know what? Eating frog's legs, I bet your average French person hasn't eaten frog legs anyway. But regardless,
I'd give it a try if it was presented to me. Like, sure, what the hell? Let's find out.
You know, maybe this is the American in me in particular, but like if you fry them, I could maybe see that.
I was actually
You can
thinking
eat almost anything
if
fried.
you fry them and put them in butter,
Oh yeah,
that
yeah,
could be
maybe.
good. But then
Maybe
again,
that's how they
everything.
do it. I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, so the card immediately compares itself to one of the more popular commanders out there, and that is Chatterfang, Squirrel General, who is a 3-mana, 3/3 with Forest Walk, compared to this 2/3 with no Forest Walk.
Ooh, already getting compared unfavorably.
And then this one, if you would make a token, basically, you make a token and a squirrel, and this does the same thing, but for frogs. And if you look out there, let's see. Also, this is a green and black commander. This is just mono green.
Ooh.
So if I do another quick search here for squirrel,
Squirrels have a pretty good
And-
amount of support. I remember when Bloomburrow was coming out, the deck that sold out the quickest was the Squirrel deck. Every single
Yeah.
time.
so there are 28 squirrels in black and green, and perhaps even more importantly, since we're talking about making tokens, there are 40 green or black cards that make squirrel tokens. So let's compare that though to frog.
Bloomburrow,
in
don't let us down now.
Just green, right?
Yep, just green.
There are 4, including Quina, there are 4 cards. Oh, and they don't make frog tokens. This one cares about frogs, this one cares about frogs. So Quina might be the only card in the whole deck that could make a frog token. Now, granted, you don't have to make a frog token. You can make any kind of token, and then you also make a frog.
You just get a
token.
frog as a free with purchase.
Yeah, but that means that your other tokens aren't going to be like synergizing with the frog ones. So your other token, your treasure, your clue, whatever else, can't be sacrificed to put a +1/+1 counter on Quina. And if we don't look at the text, if we look at instead the type line, frog, there's going to be more creatures that are frogs. Yeah, there's 25. But I'll tell you, most of these cards suck. I'll just tell you straight up here. You know, I don't know. If you don't want to take a look at those things, most of these cards you would never play in Commander. There are a few exceptions. So frogs, not a great theme. And then she, I believe, doesn't match up to Chatterfang's power and toughness, doesn't match up to having the evasion ability, doesn't match up to the kindred synergies, doesn't match up to the number of colors, which is huge. But
Just play Chatterfang, it's better.
Chatterfang used to be considered a funny commander, and now no longer funny. Why? It's too good. So Quina, much funnier. And so, you know what? I think if you want to build a bracket 1 deck, this is the way to go. If you want to build a bracket 3 or 4, then this is the way to go.
Yeah.
If you want to build a bracket 2, do neither of them, because Chatterfang's too strong and Quina's too weak. So, that said, I think I'm going to put Quina here in the questionable, maybe somewhere around here, next to another one that has kind of a questionable kindred synergy thing going on.
Huh, I was thinking you were going to put Quina in lame.
Quina's fun, and you know what, actually, I perhaps didn't play up as much how good it is that when you make a token, you make another token.
True.
That
there
is
is
a really good effect. The rest of the stuff on Chatterfang is a lot less relevant, but it still makes Chatterfang clearly significantly better. And once again, I do think that being fun is actually one of the most important metrics for a commander. And so I think that's the one biggest thing that keeps her out of being lame. I think she's fun.
All right, let's move on then.
Yep. We're on to Saz Katzroy.
I can't help you. I didn't play Final Fantasy 13.
And you know, people give Barrett a lot of a break for being a stereotypical character, considering that he came out in like 1997 or something. This guy's in Final Fantasy 13, which came out in like 2013, I think. And he's got a big old afro, and he's, if I remember right, he's kind of like jive talking and stuff like that. Like, he's very much still a black stereotype character. And much later,
I don't know enough about his character to say whether he defies the stereotype in other ways or if he has hidden depths or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe he does.
Okay.
Maybe it's another Barrett case. Like, yeah, he is, but we also put some other great stuff with him that just goes with it.
Maybe. And you know what? Final Fantasy 13 is like 3 games, so there's a lot of time to develop his character further. I do remember
But
seeing...
did they do it, is the question
Yeah.
here, that we can't answer.
No. I do remember seeing one of the first trailers for Final Fantasy 13, where he shows up, and a lot of people, myself included, kind of groaned when we were like, oh no, he's got the big afro, and he's like, how you doing, everybody? And then he pulls a baby bird out of his afro and shows it to everybody. I'm like, they made his afro a nest. Someone in Japan thought, hey, that looks like a nest. Oh my.
Oh no.
Okay, so once again, though, I'm going to stop.
I mean, the bird is cute, but...
and it's a chocobo, canonically.
Yeah, it's a baby chocobo.
Yeah, so although I think he just named it Chocobo, he didn't give it a special name.
Oh.
But in any case, I'm gonna stop being offended for other people. If you want to get in the comments,
I'm not necessarily offended. I'm more like, I have questions.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just a little bit cringy to me when they get so close to the stereotypes. It doesn't seem mean-spirited, though.
Yeah, I don't think they're doing it on purpose, but I do think they should put a little more thought into it.
Yeah. So, all that said, how good is Saz Katsuroi as a magic card?
Well, for 3 into green, you get a 3/3 human pilot, and when Saz Katsuroi enters, you may search your library for a bird or basic land card. Reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever Saz attacks, you put a 1/1 counter on target creature, and then double the number of 1/1 counters on that creature. Okay, I like that.
Okay. So, this is another mono-green commander that cares about birds. Although, he doesn't have to care about birds. He can tutor for a bird, but you can always just not do that.
Yeah.
You can go get a basic land, and then he just is a +1/+1 counter commander. So I think that he's significantly better than Bart's and Boko, but he's kind of on the same boat in that if you are doing birds, there are better commanders because you want to include some blue and or some white birds. Ideally, your bird commander is themselves a bird, and he's not. And then the rest of what he does here, it's not clear if that synergizes with the birds. But it is just kind of a decent ability on its own. So I think that Saz Katsuroi goes in the better in the 99 again, but I think he's better than Bart's. So how much better? Probably not a ton. We will eventually see a bird commander where Saz and Bart's will both be great inclusions. They'll be fine cards, just probably not as your commander.
Moving on.
We have
Tifa! The other
Tifa.
waifu!
And you know what? I'm hoping that this pops up randomly as the thumbnail for this video. Probably not gonna, but just giving our search engine optimization here a shot. That said, what can you tell me about Tifa?
Well, for a 1 and a green, you get a 1/2 human monk with trample, and a landfall ability. Whenever a land you control enters, double Tifa Lockhart's power until end of turn.
Okay, so at first glance, I don't think this looks particularly exciting.
I know, right? What's going on here?
Yeah, however, I think that she has kind of like the outline of a good plan. You know? Like, you know how in a lot of heist movies and stuff like that, or a lot of action movies, they do have to come up with some kind of infiltration plan. And that in the end, a lot of it is like getting this person to the right place so they can do their thing. And then their thing is wrecking face. That's Tifa. I think that having trample built into her, excellent. Doubling her power whenever a land enters the battlefield, excellent. And the two things synergize together very well.
Let's see if you can get effects where you can have multiple multiple, where you can get all bleh. Had that.
An effect like this, perhaps.
Yes, that's what I was trying to say.
Extra land drops. Yeah, absolutely you're playing an exploration deck here. Absolutely you're playing a Sky Shroud. Did I include it? Yes. Claim. Search your library for 2 force and put them onto the battlefield. So that'll trigger her twice. And if you have 1 and you double it, you're at
2.
And 2 and you double it and you're
4.
at. Okay, that's starting to get a little
2, 4, 6, 8.
a little dangerous. And how many times do you need to double her in order to kill with her? So you doubled her twice, and she's at 4.
Let's see, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32.
5. You have to have 5 lands enter the battlefield in a single turn in order for her to be completely lethal in one shot silver bullet commander, and that's even if they chump block with a few toughness.
Yep.
And granted, if you're using cards like Sky Shroud Claim to get there, great. That's a sorcery, though. So you can, like, play her on turn 2, and then turn 4, you go Sky Shroud Claim and then attack, and she'll be bullying some people. But
I'd think you'd want to get some counters on her or some other boosts. That way you don't have to try as hard.
oh, like, let's see, maybe a Ring of Colonia comes to mind as a 2-mana equipment that, sure, it gives trample, so maybe this isn't the best one out there, but it's the first one that came to my mind. At the beginning of your upkeep, you put a +1/+1 counter on a equipped creature if it's green.
Ooh, very good.
In this deck, every creature is going to be green, maybe a few colorless.
This is definitely the right color for this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Steve, by the way, is an instant speed way of doing landfall.
Yep.
So that means if you control Steve, say turn 2 you play Tifa, turn 3 you play Steve, you attack someone with Tifa, they don't know if you're going to crack Steve or not. And so depending on how they block, you could decide if it's time to get a free extra land drop and double her power or not. Not to mention, if you do put any kind of equipment on her, then that math goes out the window. Like, what would be a good example? I don't know. People don't really play Viridian Claw much, and maybe they shouldn't, but actually, maybe they should here. 2 to cast, 1 to equip gives +1/+0 and first strike. That's really cheap, and her doubling her power, that's great, but you'll notice her toughness stays at 2. That could be a big problem for a trampler that wants to get in and trample over somebody. Unless you got first strike, in which case, hey, your opponents can chump block a whole lot. Doesn't matter their toughness is only 2. She kills them all. And that means that you've already got 1 additional power. Her doubling starts at a higher level. And there's one more element to this. I mentioned Sakura Tribe Elder can do an extra land drop at instant speed. You can also be playing, let's see, Misty Rainforest. You could be playing stuff like this. I just showed you Verdant Catacombs a minute ago. Turns out there's a green-red one, a green-blue one, green-black one, green-white one.
You can play them even though they're colors that are outside the purview?
Right, because there's no blue mana symbol on this card.
Okay. I didn't know that counted.
Yeah, it's not a blue card. It's not a green card either. Lands are colorless pretty much always. There's only one example I can think of that isn't, and that's Dryad Arbor. And Dryad Arbor is weird and special.
It's pretty, though. I like the art.
Oh, yeah. It has a green color identity dot here because it is a land creature. In fact, I think the old version of it said, yeah, Dryad Arbor is green. So this is the only land I think that exists that is a color until maybe it's on the battlefield and you do something special to it. So, in any case, you play Misty Rainforest and you play every fetch land you can alongside Tifa. You play Myriad Landscape. Myriad Landscape, you can sacrifice it, search your library for 2 basic lands, put them on the battlefield tapped. When you are playing with Tifa, you're going to be having probably 3 or more instant speed ways of doubling her power every time you attack with her, and your opponents cannot relax. They can't. Oh, and did I mention that you can also take one of the most basic cards in Magic's history, Giant Growth, and make it actually good here?
Whoo boy.
It's an instant, so it's a surprise, and giving her +3/+3, you attack with her, you give her +3/+3, so she's a 4/5, and then you start doubling her power?
8.
Yep! And they don't know that you're going to do that until you've done it. And of course, you can also play. Okay, you put all your eggs in one basket with Tifa. She could be killed by something, swords, path, all that kind of stuff. So you also play some stuff like Vines of Vastwood, right?
I think we need to start cutting down the amount of
References?
Yes.
Okay, well, we're almost done with the whole thing anyway.
Okay.
But Vines of Vastwood basically gives your creature hexproof and then gives it +4/+4 if you pay the kicker. So that one would be really good. And I'll make this my last one, is Gift of Fraelis, I want to say? Or is it Gift of Gaia? Shoot. Gaia? Shoot. Okay, well, that's not going to work. Okay, in any case...
you get the picture.
There is one that puts a +1/+1 counter on a creature, and that's it. This is the one I was thinking of. Gaia's Gift. Okay. Colorless and a green instant, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, gains reach, trample, hexproof, and indestructible until end of turn. That's a permanent buff on top of a temporary resist all your board wipes and targeted removal stuff. So, Tifa may not look like much, down here anyway, may not look like much in the rules text box, but I think she's actually an incredibly powerful commander. Tempting to put her all the way up in exciting, but I think
she belongs in good rather than exciting.
I think she might be like the best of the good. I'm a little bit torn because in the end, I think that what makes the difference between good and exciting is if they are fun or unique. And I think she's just, in a way, kind of the best at what she does. I don't know if she's fun or unique. And it's very likely that you'll attack someone for like 3, and then they'll be like, I guess I'll block with my Saproling. And they'll be like, cool. land, you die.
Yep.
Oh. And then, can you do that to 2 other players? Can you do that to 2 other players without the person that you just defeated being sat there for like an hour?
Have multiple answers.
So, I'm going to keep her out of exciting for that reason, but pretty great. Okay, so we do have, well, questionable whether or not Vanille counts, but Torgal is a fine hound. Although he isn't a dog, he's a wolf. But what does he do?
Well, for 1 and a green, we get a 2/2 wolf, and whenever you cast your first human creature spell each turn, that creature enters with an additional 1/1 counter on it for each dog and or wolf you control. You can also tap for a mana of any color.
Okay, so 2 mana 2/2, off to a decent start, and it taps for 1 mana of any color. So that's great, honestly, at least for an uncommon. And then it has other text. Cool. That other text, when you cast your first human, it enters with an additional counter for each dog or wolf. So this is maybe kind of what what were they called? It was the elf and the big dog, Voja. Maybe this is what Voja was supposed to be, kind of. The Voja's a wolf, cares about elves and wolves, but like this card ended up being way, way, way too good. So maybe this is the properly balanced dog-wolf kind of commander.
So Torgal wants you to have humans and doggos and wolves.
Yeah.
And or wolves.
And you could do them 50-50, you could do mostly humans, you could do mostly dogs and wolves. Any combination of that is probably going to be fine. Because you'll either get more humans with a few counters or more dogs and wolves and a lot of counters when you do bring out a human. So, honestly, all that seems great. But I'll tell you the place that I'm the most excited to play it is in my deck in particular.
Raga-Draga.
Raga-Draga. Raga-Draga, for some reason, is a human. He's canonically
boar?
a wereboar.
Oh, that's why.
Mm-hmm. Each creature you control with a mana ability gets +2/+2, so that means that this will be a 4/4. When a creature you control with a mana ability attacks, you untap it, so it'll kind of have vigilance or better than vigilance. Him being a human means that when he enters, he'll get at least one counter um,
I'll be
from
right back,
having
folks.
Torgal alone. And then tapping for mana of any color means that it'll help with the red part in this deck. So Torgal is great in the 99 of a Raga Draga deck. If you're not playing Raga Draga, honestly, it seems good if you're playing dogs, wolves, or humans. But does that make it better in the 99? Probably. Probably. But I think this is one of the better ones among the better in the 99.
It seems to me like this. It feels like this card should have partner on it.
Oh, yeah, I wish it could partner with... I think his partner is supposed to be the main guy from Final Fantasy 16.
Clive.
Clive, that's right. So, still, I'm going to put him near the top of better in the 99 because he's arguably maybe worth putting as your commander, but gosh, nobody stacks up to Voja in terms of power. And also Dog Meat is another competition for like best dog, or Rin and Siri. There are other really good dogs out there. And then we go on to our last green commander. And now technically we talked about Vanille before when talking about the black commanders, because she kinda sorta partners with Fang. She melds with Fang. And so we talked about them both together quite a bit.
Yes.
But you can't put Vanille in a Fang deck. You can put Fang in a Vanille deck. So what does she do?
For 3 mana and a green, you get a 3/2 human cleric. When Vanille enters, you mill 2 cards and then return a permanent from your graveyard to your hand. At the beginning of your first main phase, if you both own and control Vanille and a creature named Fang, Fearless Lassie, you may pay 3 mana, a black, and a green. If you do, exile them and then meld them into Ragnarok Divine Deliverance.
And Ragnarok Divine Deliverance is this thing, which, like, it is half male and half female, I guess. But what else does it do besides being freaky?
It's a 7/6 with Vigilance, Menace, Trample, Reach, Haste, and Haste. That's a lot.
Yeah.
When Ragnarok dies, destroy target permanent and return target non-legendary permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield.
Okay, so
Wake up, everybody! It's time to do everything.
yeah, this guy has every keyword ability that you could possibly want.
I haven't seen that many keywords since I was searching for my favorite smut.
All right. Fair. I mean, Beast might have been in... No, probably not. Not literally.
No, it wasn't.
No, maybe Beauty and the Beast, but...
Actually, no.
Okay, regardless, Ragnarok is obviously incredibly powerful, and even if people kill it, then you get to destroy something and resurrect something at the same time. But, of course, it's very difficult to get to that point, because you have to either play Vanille... You pretty much have to play Vanille as your commander and Fang in the 99, and then hope to find Fang. Which I think mirrors the story of Final Fantasy 13?
Wouldn't know.
I've heard that that's kind of how it goes, is that you find Vanille, and then you're looking for Fang, and then I think you get separated from Vanille, and you find Fang, and then you finally reunite them, and then you get to Ragnarok, and it's a whole thing. Now, granted, I think Vanille kind of helps you find him, because when he enters, you mill 2 cards and then put a permanent card from your graveyard to your hand.
So basically you try to kill Fang and bring him back.
Kinda.
At the beginning of your first main phase... Oh yeah, and then we get to the meld ability.
Right, and you still have to pay 5 in order to meld it, and you have to have already controlled both of them. So...
That is that's pretty steep.
However, Black gives you access to tutors. And I have said almost nothing about tutors through all of our rankings so far, because tutors are discouraged if you're playing bracket 1 or 2. They've been discouraged by me a lot because I think that they detract from the randomness and therefore the kind of fun and unpredictability of Commander. I think that the game gets a lot more boring if you're using tutors all the time. But this is where I'd be willing to make an exception. You
I
want to
mean, you
find
almost.
Fang.
I mean, you almost have to do it if you want a deck with these two to work.
Yeah. So, Time of Need is the first thing that comes to my mind, and maybe this is, outdated at this point, but you can play this in green. You search your library for a legendary creature card, reveal it, put it in your hand, and then shuffle. There, you found Fang. And you could put some others in there, like, the best tutor of all time is going to be Demonic Tutor. You could, of course, just play this. But if you play enough tutors that you consistently find Fang, then you also are playing enough tutors that you will regularly have more than one, and then you're dealing with the same tutor problem that people normally have. But I think that, once again, I'll give you a pass on this one. But her ability only triggers when she enters, and then she only does anything else if you find her partner and meld them together for 5 mana. I feel like this also might be a little bit like the Diamond Weapon in that, like, if you pull this off, then you're kind of like, okay, all right, I'm done, everybody.
I have done the thing I set out to do.
All right, I can die happy.
And besides, if we need tutors, which, as you said, can be, less fun in other contexts, if we need the tutors to prop these two up, I don't think they're that good.
Well, but you know what? Ragnarok...
They could be fun, but they're not that good. And this would be... Mm-hmm. This is the golden scenario. This is the Lord willing and the creek don't rise scenario.
Although I'd say if you're not using tutors, then that is the case. If you're using tutors, then I think it becomes a lot more reliable plan. And unlike the Diamond Weapon, you're playing 2 colors, not just one. You're not playing mono
helps.
Green. And Ragnarok has a lot more relevant abilities, from haste, so it can attack the turn it comes out, vigilance, so it can attack and block. It's got 2 different forms of evasion. Honestly, Ragnarok is a lot more effective end game scenario than the Diamond Weapon is. So I think that Ragnarok is a much better commander than Diamond Weapon. And therefore, I guess Vanille is 2. So where did I put Diamond Weapon? Down here in questionable?
Yeah.
And yet,
although frankly, if you're playing with these two and someone exiles Fang, you're screwed.
I think that's got to keep it in the questionable then. Yeah. It's better than Diamond Weapon.
But not by a lot.
Oh, yeah, I mean, she's not better in the 99. That's just not going to be the case, because then you have to find both pieces of her. Psh, no. Is she good? I don't think so. If you do the whole tutoring plan, then you've probably built a good deck, because you can go find whatever card you need at whatever time. So it's...
But then
I
that,
could see her going
but then
up
that
in
crosses
good.
over into the true meta, which, again, I'm going to say is the true meta is having fun so that people will play with you more. Exactly.
And if your deck always plays Vanille on a certain turn, always plays a tutor to go find Fang, always flips into Ragnarok, that's going to get boring after you played it like 3 or 4 times or something, and that's the true meta. So I think I'm going to keep her down here in questionable, even though I think she is better than Diamond Weapon. Which means...
we done it!
We have finished the red and green commanders from the core set.
And it also draws all of the monocolored commanders to a close.
Yep. All the rest of them are multicolor, and there's still quite a few of those. Honestly, these are going to be some of the most fun, some of the most exciting, because you know that one of the common criticisms I had the whole way was they're just one color.
These are monocolor!
And monocolor holds commanders back. It just does. The only example where it kind of helps is Clive, because of that devotion to red.
Right. And Cecil is technically a multicolored commander, and he just rocketed to the top.
Mm-hmm. And Vanille almost does that, because she's also got black in her, but you have to jump through some hurdles.
That's not the only hoop you have to jump through, dearie.
Mm-hmm. That said, I think it's possible that you could build a good deck with her, but I think that the average commander player that I've seen is a lot less experienced at deck building, and is probably going to make something that is either not fun or not good. To try to do both at the same time is going to be tricky. But that shows you how we rank all the commanders so far. We have, what, 7 that are exciting? And a green one didn't make it, but Tifa came close. So overall, though, this is looking like a really fun set.
Yep, we've got more better in the 99 than anything else. A bunch of goods, a few excitings, a fair amount of questionables, and only 2 lames.
Yeah, actually, there were a couple here that I was considering maybe are lame, like Zell, but you know what? I heard enough people brainstorming about him. And I actually heard at least one person who said they were specifically excited to do Q here. Q, whatever they are. So, honestly, maybe 1 or 2 of these should be dropped down, but I don't think I'm going to re-rank anything. So, I think with that, we're going to wrap it up here.
Beautiful. Also, from now on, I'm definitely keeping track of how many different cards you look up for a single one, and I think I'm going to start bothering you after the 3rd one.
Okay, but I'm not trying to rush anything here. I do want to have some content that is, like, helpful. But
True.
It's just a starting point. It's just to inspire people to get started and to give an idea of why I think it might go someplace. So
true. I'm not asking you to rush. I'm just asking you to...
limit it a bit.
Yes.
Okay. This isn't, I'm not here by myself, after all. It's not just me.
It's you,
so
me, and the
we
audience.
need to balance things here a bit.
It's you, me, and the audience, and occasionally the cat.
Yes. Oh, God, the cat. Yep. And that one time, the Roomba. So, we'll catch you on the next one in the multicolor section to finish it out. I hope you all look forward to it.
Bye!
Bye-bye!